Good morning, friends. We are beginning Dreamland by Sam Quinones, the true tale of America's opiate epidemic. Preface, Portsmouth, Ohio. In 1929, 3 decades into what were the great years of the blue-collar town of Portsmouth, on the Ohio River, a private swimming pool opened and they called it Dreamland. The pool was the size of a football field. Over the decades, generations of the town grew up at the edge of its crystal blue water. Dreamland was the summer babysitter. Parents left their children at the pool every day. Townsfolk found respite from the thick humidity at Dreamland and then went across the street to the A&W stand for hot dogs and root beer. The pool's french fries were the best around. Kids took the bus to the pool in the morning and back home in the afternoon. They came from schools all over Scioto County and met each other and learned to swim. Some of them competed on the Dreamland Dolphin swim team, which practiced every morning and evening. WIOI, the local radio station, knowing so many of its listeners were sunbathing next to their transistor radios at Dreamland, would broadcast a jingle, "Time to turn so you won't burn," every half hour. The vast pool had room in the middle for 2 concrete platforms from which kids sunned themselves, then dove back in. Poles topped with floodlights rose from the platforms for swimming at night. On one side of the pool was an immense lawn where families set their towels. On the opposite side were locker rooms and a restaurant. Dreamland could fit hundreds of people, and yet magically the space around it kept growing, and there was always room for more. Jamie Williams, the city treasurer, owned the pool for years. Williams was part owner of one of the shoe factories that were at the core of Portsmouth's industrial might. He bought more and more land, and for years Dreamland seemed to just get better. A large picnic area was added, and playgrounds for young children, and fields for softball and football, and courts for basketball and shuffleboard, and a video arcade. For a while, to remain white only, the pool became a private club, and the name changed to the Terrace Club. Portsmouth was a largely integrated town. Its chief of police was black. Black and white kids went to the same schools, only the pool remained segregated. And in the summer of 1961, a black boy named Eugene McKinley drowned in the Scioto River, where he was swimming because he was kept out of the pool. The Portsmouth NAACP pushed back, held a wade-in, and quietly they integrated the pool. With integration, the pool was rechristened Dreamland, though blacks were never made to feel particularly comfortable there. Dreamland did wash away class distinctions, though. In a swimming suit, a factory worker looked no different from the factory manager or a clothing shop owner. Wealthy families in Portsmouth's hilltop donated money to a fund that would go to pay for summer passes for families from the town's East End, down between the tracks and the Ohio River. East End river rats and upscale hilltoppers all met at Dreamland. California had its beaches. Heartland America spent its summers at swimming pools, and down at a far end of Ohio, Dreamland took on an outsized importance to the town of Portsmouth. A family season pass was only $25, and this was a prized possession often given as a Christmas present. Kids whose families couldn't afford that could cut a neighbor's grass for 15 cents that a daily pool pass cost. Friday swim dances began at midnight. They hauled out a jukebox, and kids spent the night twisting by the pool. Couples announced new romances by walking hand in hand around Dreamland. Girls walked home from those dances, and families left their doors unlocked. The heat of the evening combined with the cool water was wonderful, one woman remembered. It was my entire world. I did nothing else. As I grew up and had my own children, I took them too. In fact, the cycle of life in Portsmouth was repeated over and over at Dreamland. A toddler spent her first years at the shallow end, watched by her parents, particularly her mother, who sat in a towel on the concrete near the water with other young moms. When the child left elementary school, she migrated out to the middle section of Dreamland as her parents retreated to the grass. By high school, she was hanging out on the grass around the pool's 10-foot deep end, near the high dive in the head lifeguard's chair, and her parents were far away. When she married and had children, she returned to the shallow end of Dreamland to watch over her own children, and the whole thing began again. My father, a Navy vet from World War II, insisted that his 4 children learn not only how to swim, but how to not be afraid of the water, one man wrote. My younger sister jumped off the 15-foot high diving board at age 3. Yes, my father, myself, and my brother were in the water just in case. Sister pops up out of the water and screams, "Again!" For many years, Dreamland's manager, Chuck Lawrence, a Portsmouth high school coach and strict disciplinarian, walked the grounds with a yardstick, making sure teenagers minded his 3-foot rule and stayed that far apart. He wasn't that successful. It seems half the town got their first kiss at the pool, and plenty lost their virginity in Dreamland's endless grass. Lawrence's son, meanwhile, learned to swim before he could walk and became a Dreamland lifeguard in high school. To be the lifeguard in that chair, you were right in the center of all the action, all the strutting, all the flirting, said John Lawrence, now a retired history professor. You were like a king on a throne. Through these years, Portsmouth also supported 2 bowling alleys, a J.C.Penney, a Sears, and a Montgomery Ward with an escalator, and locally owned Marting's department store, with a photo studio where graduating seniors had their portraits taken. Chillicothe Street bustled. Big U.S.-made sedans and station wagons lined the street. People cashed their checks at the Kresge's on Saturdays, and the owners of Morgan Brothers Jewelry, Herman's Meats, Count's Bakery, and Atlas Fashion earned a middle-class living. Kids took the bus downtown to the movie theater or for cherry cokes at Smith's drugstore and stayed out late trick-or-treating on Halloween. On Friday and Saturday nights, teenagers cruised Chillicothe Street from Staker's Drugs down to Smith's, then turned around and did it again. Throughout the year, the shoe factories would deduct Christmas Club money from each worker's paycheck. Before Christmas, they issued each worker a check, and he would cash it at the bank. Chillicothe Street was festive then. Bells rang as shoppers went shoulder to shoulder, watching the mechanical puppets and displays in store windows painted with candy canes, Christmas trees, and snowmen. Marting's had a Santa on the second floor. So in 1979 and 80, Portsmouth felt worthy to be selected an all-American city. The town had more than 42,000 people then, very few were wealthy, and the U.S. Labor Department would have gauged many Portsmouthians poor. But we weren't aware of it, nor did we care, one woman recalled. An industry supported a community for all. No one had pools in their backyards. Rather, there were parks, tennis and basketball courts, and window shopping and levees to slide down. Families ice-skated to Millbrook Park in winter and picnicked at Roosevelt Lake in summer, or sat late into the evening as their kids played kick the can in the street. My family used to picnic down by the Ohio River in a little park where my dad would push me so high on the swings I thought I'd land in Kentucky, another woman said. All of this recreation let a working-class family feel well off, but the center of it all was that gleaming, glorious swimming pool, memories of Dreamland, drenched in the smell of chlorine, coppertone, and French fries, were what almost everyone who grew up in Portsmouth took with them as the town declined. 2 Portsmouths exist today. One is a town of abandoned buildings at the edge of the Ohio River. The other resides in the memories of thousands in the town's diaspora who grew up during its better years and returned to the actual Portsmouth rarely, if at all. When you ask them what the town was back then, it was Dreamland. Have a good day, friends.